So, I've not mastered life, yet for some reason, I think I can. My name is Brandon, and I've wanted nothing more than to be a husband and a father. Now a husband and a father, I realize how terrible I am at it. And not just at that, but life in general. I'm currently a seminary student working towards a doctorate, but I don't want to be a pastor, nor do I want to teach at a seminary. I honestly don't know what I want to do, but I like writing and podcasting. So I'm going to take this step of faith and put myself out there. So listen and laugh with or at me as I attempt to endure life's constant slap upside the head, from calling out my wife on her BS to being guilty of the same thing. I'll be discussing a range of topics about life in order to have genuine talks about our screw-ups. The goal is to grow and mature while having some fun in between. Join the conversation every month with people from different walks of life to discuss how we're doing it wrong. Life better. Money be the worst. Be no equal. See the people waiting for the purse. Doing it. Grace and peace, grace and peace. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of You're Doing It Wrong. My name is Brandon, and I am excited to be here with you another month. Like I said, I can't explain how grateful I am just to have people who I know just to come on and be a part of this. Just literally a few seconds ago, KO's, talking about how he don't like being in front of the camera. And it's like, to get people who are willing to make those sacrifices, it means a great deal to me. And so I'm just excited to have people here. But last month, I had the honor and the privilege of being joined by Tam and Benita, and we just talked about creating content. In fact, I know this, even though I'm recording in September, so it's going to be past due. I know they had a meeting for Call to Create, so I'm happy for them and what they are doing, and just being there for women, and not just women who are Christians, but just women who are non-believers who understand the value of just creating content. But we had just a great time last month just talking about that topic of creating content and just the struggles that we all have, just trying to figure it out, because we all don't know what in the world that we're doing, but we know that God has put this desire in us to create content, just trusting him as we go. This month, I'm joined by my brother. Super excited to have these guys here with me. And when I went out and just wanted to have this platform and this podcast, I wanted to be real and transparent. I didn't necessarily want to be necessarily overtly Christian, but it's undoubtedly going to come out because that's who I am. And just realizing from the outside looking in, most people look at our faith as we kind of crazy, especially as black men. When you think of church, especially in the black context, it's usually just, church mothers and women. Rarely are men leading in that forefront. But I'm grateful to be at a church where we don't just see, strong black women, but strong black men who are leaders and pillars in the church and in the community. And these brothers definitely exemplify that. But we wanted just to have just real conversation, because we're not ignorant to the fact that people look at our faith and kind of doubt, what's going on. And so we wanted to talk about doubt from that perspective, and also talk about our own personal doubts that we have. So I'm just grateful to have these brothers here with me, Kao and Emmanuel. How are y'all doing this morning, man?
Doing good, man. It's good to be here. Exciting.
How about you, Kao, man?
I'm good, bro. I'm good.
You good? Well, we're going to jump right into this, because like I said, I wanted to be real, because a lot of times as Christians, we don't hold the mirror up to ourselves, and we don't realize how we contribute to other people's doubts and things that are going on. So I wanted to open up with this question. How have we as Christians contributed to the doubters? And I'll start with you, Kao.
Man, I think in a lot of different ways. I think just generally, a lot of times we're just kind of judged by stereotypes, and those are usually kind of the worst of things. And instead of necessarily trying to help people understand who we are, we're trying to make them forget who we don't want them to think of us as, right? And so we don't necessarily deal with the conflict of, hey, I might also do some things or might have some beliefs that you don't like, but I'm not just that. I'm a holistic person. there are things that we might agree with, there are things that we might disagree with, but I can respectfully and like lovingly do that instead of necessarily just trying to combat you or put everything out as like a lie, you know? And I think that's kind of like the hard thing about being a Christian, especially like how you just said, just being also like a black male that's a Christian with, you know, the history of Christianity in our country. And not necessarily the biblical standards that are true, but the things that people kind of use to have power over us as a people, and the lies that were presented, you know, to really kind of hold us back, and just kind of helping people to understand that that's not all there is to it. Like, there is a lot more. It's a richer history. It's a history that spans back to Africa and all those things. But it's kind of like hard to miss that because there's so many lies mixed in with a little bit of a sprinkle of truth that can just really kind of throw people off. I mean, and even for me, threw me off as I was kind of really having my own search for what spirituality for me at one point in time meant. So yeah.
And what about you, E?
Yeah, I mean, I think my story, I think a lot of people in the church can kind of relate with just growing up in a Christian household and just in a very strict environment. And, you know, sometimes you look back, so I could be a little off here, mama. But, you know, like, it seemed like there's a lot of answers that I had as me just personally being somebody who's, like, analytical and like to really try to put the dots and kind of make them fit together. I felt like a lot of the answer was just, like, have faith, you know. And so I felt like the substance was missing and the rules was, like, heavy to keep, you know what I mean? And guys like judgmental, not really understanding grace and not really understanding the gospel. You know, me myself going off to college, you know, it was like, number one, I was ill-equipped to be able to be in that atmosphere, which kind of left to just being an atheist at that time. And then some of the influences I was listening to, I was moving on towards like being my own God, you know, and so, I mean, in that sense, like, you know, there was some realness, I think, to God, because, like, that fear was kind of putting me to, like, yeah, like, I had a consciousness, like, yo, you can't just be out here reckless fully, you know what I mean? But on the other side, it was, like, you know, the questions I really needed, you know what I mean? Like, even, like, to, like, your book, like, Burden of Proof, just the things you're addressing, there wasn't that or that coming, or maybe I wasn't searching from someone who was relative or had my perspective, you know what I mean? Or maybe even from a hip hop standpoint, the music I was listening to was shaping my, you know, the way I was thinking about who I was as far as like wanting to be a God, you know? So, so I just think, one, just answering the questions in a way that, you know, you do. And I think somebody who's relative, maybe someone who looks like me, somebody I can see. And then I think on the other side of, you know, my story, after becoming from being an atheist to now, I actually forgot the thought I was going to say, but yeah, so I think one, just answering the questions, and someone that looks like you as well, so they'll probably hit me later, but yeah.
Nah, and then Kao, you had brought up something, and I think it kind of speaks to the misconceptions that we have of Christianity. You have mentioned that a lot of us just don't know the history of it. A lot of people think, you know, Christianity, you know, started, I've heard the Constantine argument, or even when you come to America, we think that's like the first time, especially black people, have known about it. And we go to a church and our pastor is just really heavy on understanding history and understanding, you know, black representation in Scripture, or just people of color in Scripture, because most people don't even realize that, you know, the people who they see Jews now is not the Jews who was back then, because it's so intermingled with European and things like that. But can you speak to just having this understanding of how rich, especially in our community, because I think that's one of the things that people doubt. We've heard it all the time, and I hate like even bringing it up, where we just talk about, you know, Christianity being a white man's religion, because I've heard so many times, but I definitely did want to make sure that we touched on it in understanding just the African history that is rooted in Christianity. And I don't know if you could speak a little bit to that, especially like I said, us being at a church where we see it really heavily mentioned. And I guess I'll put it like this too, because even me being in seminary, I had no clue about some of these things, like Augustine, I didn't know about these people like that's from North Africa. Oh, like even when you like we talk about like Egypt all the time, it's like, yo, Egypt's in Africa, bro. And we don't even like put two and two together. And a lot of times, I think as Christians, one of the reasons that people do doubt is because they don't have an accurate portrayal of what Christianity does look like. So I don't know if you could speak a little bit more.
Or just real quick, because he's gonna kill this. But I just think like you say certain names, like you automatically think it was white.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Augustine or Tertullian.
You saw a picture.
Yeah,
of
you know what I mean.
As
a picture
white.
as
and
you
so
know.
you have that understanding.
Exactly. So as far as I know that, you got.
Well, see, honestly, for me, I think it's kind of more. Now, were there maybe some people that kind of took some creative liberties, especially when you're thinking about like pictures and things like that, or did it because they wanted to conform people not into like the image that God made them, but into their own image? I think that is the case. But I think for me, a lot of it is necessarily understanding that there's like a vast representation of people in Scripture, generally speaking. You know what I mean? Obviously from a distinct region of the world, but there's a vast representation of that. Like, Brandon, I know, man, because see, you're like the Bible scholar, like what's my man's name that they were like kind of like talking about as like they called him gosh, I can't remember his name, not but I think it was like with something like Niger, or you know what I'm talking about?
Nope.
Nah. Dang. but there's there's a guy that's like a black guy that they
Acts.
talk about. Yeah, I want to say in Acts.
He was laying out the deacons or
Yeah,
something?
yeah.
They was laying out the deacons.
Yeah, and one of them was black.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive of it. Like,
For sure.
Exposing a hole in my education right now.
I'm sorry, bro. I couldn't think of the name. It's like, hey, man. Hey, me and my brother right here, we're definitely not formally educated in it. But, I mean, I think for me, one thing, if you're a person that likes to ask questions, right, and you want to find out what those answers are to the best of your ability, I mean, you just kind of start piecing things together and learning. You know, and I did want to kind of go back and jump into something. You're talking about, like, growing up and, like, how that, like, shaped your identity kind of as a Christian, or what you thought Christians were. Like, for me, I grew up in the church. My dad was a minister. You know, and so I saw this representation of strong black men that believed in Jesus. Now, I would say, like, as far as some of the theological questions, I had some of the same ones. Yeah. And a lot of it was like, you know, have faith, or people would try to explain it, and I'm like, this intellectually doesn't make sense.
Yep.
And I mean, and not that everything has to make sense intellectually, but it was still kind of like, man, there seems to be so many holes here and such a high standard to live up to. I don't see how I can connect these two things together.
Yeah.
So I know for me, by the time I was like a teenager, I remember the day that I was just like, yo, I am out. Like, I mean, I'm not saying God don't exist, but God, you do your thing, and I'm going to do my thing over here. And let's just, and the two shall never meet, hopefully. Yeah. You know what I mean? As anything bad happening, you know. But I think that is, it's like, I think either way, it's hard, and I think that's the other thing, kind of going into that, it's like hard for someone to take your faith seriously if you don't take their question seriously. You know? And I think that's kind of a challenge necessarily for Christians. Not saying that you have to even have all the answers, but if you just dismiss someone's questions that they mean nothing, like, or whatever, you just need to just believe. It's like, well, you didn't even give me a basis to believe off of. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, definitely. I believe things because I feel like there is some type of quality to believe in, right? It's like if somebody just went out and just told me, like, yo, yeah, man, the sky's red outside, right? Like, I've seen the sky. It's blue all the time. You have to give me some type of other facts to back that up besides, or even more so, it's like, the sky's red outside. I'm like, oh snap, I want to go see it. Nah, don't go look. Just believe me. Like, you sound crazy. You sound crazy. Let me go outside and see. Let me get some type of evidence to, like, bring this together. And I think, again, just generally, besides, like, whatever culture you come from, for the most part, people don't want to put, like, blind faith into anything that doesn't even make sense at all to them. So, yeah, that's just my point with that.
So it kind of go back to the other part I was thinking about is the narrative that's being told. And so, like, the narrative that, you know, I think a lot of people in our experience see it from, like, there's a standard or code of living you have to live up to. And you know, so these people in the Bible, like the Abrahams and stuff, we don't get it from, it's not preached from a standard of, like, brokenness that they have, You know what I mean? Of people like, he's the father of faith, so like my faith needs to be at his level where I could sacrifice, you know, a kid. You know what I mean? Or you know, Paul, like he's this missionary journey, and so you look at these people not from the standard like, yo, these guys was broken. You know what I mean? And you see more of God's faithfulness. And then these guys like that are the standard, and you know that's how most people feel, like they don't feel like they meet the standard. And so I had a conversation with a cousin of mine, you know, and we was talking about just some hard things going through, and she was just asking about my faith. How can you keep your faith? I was like, I think it's my narrative. Like when I read the Bible now, I don't see like individuals I want to be like in the sense of they're the standard. I see like now I see it from like these guys are broken. I see if God doesn't come into the picture, you know, it's like, you know, because a lot of people think Christianity is to make your life better. You know what I mean? So it's like they want to see, like, okay, like Christianity should give me a better life. You know what I mean? Instead of like broken people. And if God doesn't intervene, you know what I mean? Like, you know, he doesn't get the glory or whatever the situation is. So it's like, if we're looking at it from, hey, like this Christian may be going through something. He may be struggling with doubt. He may be struggling with his faith or whatever the situation is. Like that's real and authentic. And that's what we see a lot in the Bible, you know, with every character in the Bible. But, you know, a lot of times we don't start there. We start with like, all right, the standard. Like, all right, you know, and there is a standard, but like, it's broken people with God's faithfulness that allows them to be able to have the righteousness through Christ that we need and that we're living up to.
And can I kind of throw something in on? I feel like the flip side of that, I feel like that standard that is made, one, for like a Christian, you know, it's like there's only one person that's meeting that standard, and that's Jesus, right? Yeah. But on the, I feel like the standard, that idea of that standard, can kind of mess up the Christian, and it messes up the unbeliever, and it's kind of almost like a chain reaction, right? So for the unbeliever, you see that standard, and you see the people in the Bible, or you see Christian people, and it's like, oh, that's a good person, right? And they're good, and it's about them being good. And so they need to be praised for being good, or they need to be honored for being good, right? And then for Christians, we start believing that lie, so we're expecting some type of attention back because we're doing the good thing that God did, instead of like thinking about His grace and even allowing us to do or bear, you know, and not even, I don't even want to say bear good fruit because that's just such Christianese, but do good works because we have this relationship with Him, and He allows us and He gives us like grace to be able to do these good things. It's like, oh, nah, I'm the man, right? Then you get this like Christian celebrity thing, or the you know, the pastor that looks at you crazy if you don't say, you know, honor Reverend Bishop so and so. It's like, bro, it's not about you. You know what I mean? But that, it's kind of like this dual reality, right? You're trying to beef yourself up. These other people is like, well, I thought it was supposed to be about Jesus, but it's about this good person. So Christianity must be about doing good things and being a good person. And then we start kind of getting wrapped up in that lie, and so it's just like a vicious cycle, you know?
Yeah, I said too a lot of things that was really good. One of the things that you had mentioned, Kao, was this idea of just having this kind of blind faith, and that's one of the things that I think a lot of people question. Like, I'm just simply supposed to believe because my pastor done told me, or somebody done told me. And one of the things that attracted and appealed to me about Christianity is that God is a logical God. He's rational. So I appeal a lot of times to my reason and my logic to make sense of things. And I think for so many people, because they don't have that, where it's just like so faith and emotion based, that it's so fleeting. And most people are like, I ain't got time for that. But if you can provide them concrete evidence, so just in your hypothetical situation, if you was like, if I went outside and told you the sky was blue, but then I can go outside and prove it to you that the sky is blue, I think that's a different thing, you know? And so that's the thing. I could tell you, you know, God is real. God is real. How you know? You just got to believe. But then I say, no, I can go and prove to you God is real. How do I know? All humans have worth and value, right? Where they get this worth and value from. And just go to just concrete things that I can prove to you and show you, yo, God is truly real. And then something else that you had said that was really key, and just as we were speaking, kind of convicted me a little. It's like, you don't see any perfect person in Scripture. Like we talk about Abraham, you know, being this person of faith. It's like, bro, Abraham was like, God, I ain't got time. And we was talking about this the other day too. Is God? Abraham, he didn't have Genesis to look to.
Yeah.
You know, he's a pagan.
Yeah, exactly.
He literally just hears this voice in his head saying, yo, leave your people and go to this other land. And dude was like, yeah. And then his wife is like, we finna do this. So I granted on that level, it's like, yo, what is you doing? Yeah. But after God gives him the promise and say, you're going to have a son, he's like, that ain't happening. Exactly. He goes get Hagar, get her pregnant.
Exactly.
And he's like, I ain't got time for this. Yeah. And so he's already not only just disregarded what God had said, which is understandable because so much time had passed. Like, how many of us, God, you done told me this like 20 some odd years ago, still ain't happened. I'm finna take matters into my own hands. Definitely. He takes matters into his own hands. Not only that, we hear the story about him lying, which again, understandable. Yeah. And then God, you know, it's not a story of Abraham. It's more of a testament to what God has done through Abraham. You got that right. And so you see nothing but these broken people, and it's like, that's me. That's me, God. What you gonna do through this? And so when I had this question in mind, like how have Christians contributed to the doubters, my context, it sounded like both of y'all grew up in Christian homes. And not to say that I didn't grow up in a Christian home, but we just kind of went to churches because it was something. And we just what you do on Sunday. Yeah, that's what we did. Now, God, I don't ever recall hearing the gospel. It wasn't like a super gospel saturated home. I appreciate where I came from, but it wasn't what I know now. Yeah. If you understand what I'm saying. And so when the Lord started working on me, I ended up going to a Christian university, Liberty University, if those of you guys know, in Lynchburg, Virginia. I didn't know too much about it, but if anyone knows a little bit about Liberty, it was founded by Jerry Falwell Sr., and he actually passed the year I was actually going in, and his son took over. And so I remember being there, had a great time, proud to be an alumni, met some amazing people, met my wife there. So I don't ever take for granted why God brought me there. Yeah. But at the same time, I think it gives me a unique POV where I can look from the outside and say, a lot of my experience there, I could see how it was more conservative than Christian. Mm-hmm. And now that I've been so far removed from Liberty and in this political climate and seeing, you know, where the president of the university tends to align himself, and I'm not mad at anybody who tends to align themselves that way, Republican, conservative, vote your interests, vote your views. I have absolutely no problem with that. My issue is when we tend to turn a blind eye on the bull crap that happens, and we just sweep it under the rug just because they align with us politically and not calling out the BS. And it's like, I can imagine from people from the outside looking in, for all the things that this president has done and just how he's acted, how he's treated people, it's the furthest thing from what you would think a Christian would be. But yet there's so many Christians who champion this dude like he's the greatest thing ever. Like I said, champion him, vote your interest, but don't act like this is like this perfect dude, and when he makes a mistake, don't call him out. But yet at the same time, what challenged me is like, as much as I want to be critical, it's like he's a broken individual. Mm-hmm. And as much as I want to doubt his own faith, and be like, bruh, I don't know, I don't know about you, bruh. It's like, that ain't my place. My place is to pray for this dude, pray for the president. As hard as that might be, as disgusted as I am with how they treat people, the policies that they put in place, just as ignorant as I may think they are, it's like grace is needed for them because I'm just as crazy as them. It's like, we can just see from what they put out in the public. It's like, what if all my crap was put out in the public? How would people view me? And so as much as I'm like, yo, I don't really rock with these dudes, but you just finished saying, like, you see nothing but broken people in Scripture. And it's like, if I'm a broken person looking at somebody else broken, like, what would that mean for me? But yeah, and then from that, I wanted to talk about just mainstream, how mainstream looks at Christianity and how they view us. What are your thoughts on how media in particular views us as Christians? Go ahead, E.
Like, man, I mean, I haven't been closely, following really, like, because I can just go from just our community, like just the community I am, like from a mainstream standpoint. I haven't been as like closely watching a lot of things, so I need more of a like specific like thing. But
Okay.
Okay.
What's a good show or movie that you like that had a Christian? I guess I give you like some of the things that I see in TV is if there's like a LGBT person, you know, and then you'll see this the Christian person in the show going so hard on a gay person, and then we turn around and find out that the Christian person just as gay as the other person, and it's like a lot of times in media they just pointing out the hypocrisy
Definitely.
that they see with Christians, or even like I listen to Brilliant Idiots, Charlemagne and Andrew Schultz. It's crazy how much they talk about God. It's ridiculous. Yeah. And so they'll like bring up, you know, I can't believe Jesus actually like really walked on water. So again, it's like they look at what we have as scripture and just like doubting. Yeah. And it's like I can't believe all of this nonsense that they see. So one of the big things that I see is they try to paint us as the hypocrites. Yeah. And then they pick apart what we have in scripture. It's like, y'all believe this book, right? Yeah. Like, y'all really believe Jesus walked on water? Yeah. Because I seen David Blaine do it, or Chris Angel, right? I seen them do it before. So clearly it was just, they ain't have social media back then where I could just videotape them. And I think there is an element of mythology. Yeah. Not to say what scripture is, but people may have like exaggerated a story or something like that. So I get that point, especially back in those days. You're just kind of going off somebody's account. But we're talking, when speaking of scripture, these dudes are reporting eyewitness accounts. Definitely. You know, and that it's testifying that Jesus was God in the flesh. So walking on water would have been the least thing that he could have done. But those are just some of the things that I see in mainstream media of how we are presented, which again, we got to take some responsibility for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's all there. I mean, you know, whatever they portray, I mean, you're going to find that situation, you know? And so it's like, the thing is, like, for most situations, you're going to find it in the Bible as well. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, there's some crazy situations in the Bible. You know what I'm saying? Some Noah stuff with angels trying to, you know, like these, you know, protecting the angels, take my daughters. You know, I don't know if that's right or wrong. I just can't see myself. I think in general, like, it's the narrative. It's like, if you're looking for, you know, if you're looking for perfect people, you know what I mean, or even a Christian to be portrayed perfect, or if they're trying to discredit us, we know, if I'm talking with my cousin or my friend, like, oh yeah, he can tell me some stories, some instances. All right, but what are you looking for? Because like, even if you're looking at me and you're looking for me to be perfect, have it all together, not switch up on you if I go through something, like, you're gonna be highly disappointed. You know what I'm saying? But if you're looking at like Christ, you know what I mean? Like, you won't be disappointed. You're going to find someone who is perfect, you know, from the eyewitnesses account, and with people who doubt it, and with stories going on at the same time. So I think I guess as Christians, how we play in that is just, we have to come with the narrative of like being relevant. Like, it is there. We know that. Like, we know, you know, there's pastors that's going the other way. All right, we know that. Like, in the Bible, know that. Like, it's in the scriptures. You know, like, a lot of people don't know the scriptures. Like, when you talk about false prophet, and like, yo, it said, like, you know, see, they all about money. Like, bro, like, right here, Timothy. All right, like, it said this like over and over, and almost in every chapter. Like, we're on the same wave. All right, so like, I'm with you. Like, now that you see, like, God was already on this and kind of already told you before. Like, he, you know, prophetically already told you, like, yo, this is what it's gonna be like. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, in the last days, this is really what it's going to be like. You know what I mean? So it's like, whatever you're looking for, you're probably going to find, just in general. But where are you going to get your perspective for to, like, renew your mind on, like, hey, you're going to come back to the scriptures and say, hey, like, you know, this is it, you know, because the doubt is going to be removed once you see, like, assurance in the Bible that, like, these things are going to happen. And that the Bible's already on point with it. It's already facts with it. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's going to be that till for the rest. It's just like, you're going to have us looking, I mean, even from persecutions, like in history, like, Christians getting accused for whatever, even to this day, when things go down with huge persecution, is normally something happens and Christians get blamed for it. Like, we are at target. You know what I mean? Like, we are at target, so we kind of got to know, like, it comes with the territory. But from the outside looking in, it's like, what should they be looking for? They should be looking for resilience, perseverance. You know what I mean? Like, some of the things I'm going through now, like, I see a lot more people encouraged by, like, perseverance and stuff like that. And so, I would have thought my obedience at one point. Sometimes you think it's your obedience and your self-righteousness, right, that, spurs people on. And it does to a certain extent. But I think also how we go through suffering. You know what I mean? Eventually, it's gonna unveil itself. Like, hey, they always coming at Christians. Like in media and hip hop, it's always coming at Christians. At some point, it's got to be like, you got to look into it. Like, it's like what they say, like celebrity, like what's good and bad. All media is good. Like whether it's good or bad, like it brings attention. So I think in a certain way, like it can bring some attention if somebody's looking at it right. Like we're getting attacked. Jesus is in like almost every religious book. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there's got to be something there. I think it helps to see just the backlash that we get and like, all right, let me look into this. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. I also wanted to just kind of go off of your point. When we were talking about like broken people, what it means to not have everything together. Yeah. I think that's another thing that like the Bible really offers. Yeah. Like you were saying, like, hey, for every kind of scrutiny, all of the criticism that you have, the Bible probably addressed it before you even thought about it. It's like because the Bible sees people as complex, right? Yeah. And I think a lot of what I feel like even Christians get mad about or upset about is like when you're kind of put into this like one-dimensional box. Like nobody wants to be like, oh, you all do this, or you all are like this, or you all, because it's just not true. No matter what you're into or whatever, you are an individual to a certain extent. Yeah. And for us, we feel like God created you because he wanted you in this space at this time as you are, not necessarily that you stay that way, but as you are, and he already knows all of the complex features and problems and situations and gifts and all of those things that you have. And so I think when we fail to recognize people as being complex, as a Christian to someone that doesn't believe in Christ or the other way around, then we kind of take away from really who God made that person to be. Yeah. And nobody wants to be characterized as just this thing that isn't, because then you also like start thinking like, well, do I really matter? If all I am is this one thing, right? Or all you see me as is this one thing, you don't even see me as a whole person. Yeah. You just see me as this ideal to trample on, you know? And I think that's one of the like challenging things about how we're portrayed sometimes. Yeah. But I think it's like sometimes I think as well, because we were talking about a couple of shows. Like one movie I think about that I really love. It's about adoption. It's called Instant Family. Have you ever heard of it? No. It's a really, really good movie, but it's about adoption. But it's kind of trying to tell folks about like what foster parenting and what adopting kids can really be like that it's a struggle. And I know like at the beginning of the movie they're kind of learning about the procedure and like how you get everything together, and it's just like this one Christian family that's with everybody. So it's like the parents, the main stars, there's a gay couple, there's this Christian family, there's just like really like savvy businesswoman that she's like trying to look at kind of basically almost like having a mentee instead of a kid. It's like, man, I'm going to make this kid successful. They're going to come from the bottom and they're going to come to the top, that kind of thing, right? And the funny thing about the Christian characters, right, like, so, they're just like, yeah, we just want to love on this kid. And, they kind of make it look kind of weird that they see, like, the gay couple over there. You could tell that they feel awkward about it, but it's just like, we don't want to touch it. But as they start coming together and they all begin to have issues with their kids, right? Like this Christian couple starts to see this gay couple as human beings, as folks that are struggling with trying to raise a child or whatever. And so regardless of whatever their feelings are about it, they don't just see them as, I don't want this, this shouldn't happen. It's like, oh snap, this person is struggling, they're trying to do their best to raise this child. Now I have a sense of empathy, and that's how you build relationships with people. When you see them as a person, regardless of whatever things you don't like about them or that you do like about them, it's like, you're going through something as well,
Yeah.
and we can share in this moment.
Yeah.
And then you also are able to like maybe listen to someone's perspective and have them listen to yours and then evaluate it because they see you as a person now and not as just something to change.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think like seeing like we're so far removed because certain things are just based off of industry. Like when you think of media, it's like clickbait. Like there's so many different things, like just the way that they title something. So you take something as simple as Kanye West and these Sunday services in media. You know what I mean? And so like, you know, I was kind of far removed from it. Like my home is like, yo, you got to kind of check this out. So, you know, I'm like, all right, let me go see. You know what I mean? So let me see what's going on. And, you know, it's hard to, like, I think it's really, really hard to say what Kanye's doing. You know, like, honestly, you know, it's like, it's really hard to, like, you know, like, I'm going back to lyrics and Yeezus, you know what I mean? Like, I'm Rap Genius, you know, like, I'm going, like, all right, he already told us, like, they starting a new religion, you know what I mean? So, you know, like, you know, the Holy Ghost, the John Juan, the Bishop, and all of that, whatever it was, like, Jay-Z was saying, you know, and so then he's got an album coming up, you know what I mean?
I think it's
so,
called
like,
Jesus is King.
Jesus is King is coming up, so is this like just really, you know, pushing towards the album, you know what I mean? And so it's like when you're so far removed, it's like I guess it really goes back and let like the fruit kind of see, you know what I mean? Like he said some amazing things, supposedly amazing things, you know, on that Sunday service, right? And so there's a lot that goes at stake when you think about, like, I know nothing about the pastor that allowed that to happen. So you got those viewpoints, like how can a church, a pastor, allow that to happen? And, you know, and then you have Mace, like Mace comes back up. You think about the Mace situation, whatever you feel about that. So like we already going in our media with a certain perspective, a certain glass, you know what I mean? A certain experience, you know. Us as telling the interpreting it is coming in with certain lenses already.
Yeah, that's true.
That an experience is already like, yeah, I remember that top musician like Kanye West and he was doing things. You know what I mean? And so it's like, and they just give them a pass and his gift has made room for him. You know what I mean? And like, there's no account. So it's like you coming in with all of these kind of things already. And I think just from like taking like the media, like, is no way like, just because I'm not in that world, there's no way I can really know what it takes, or, you know, because I'm not close to Kanye, you know what I mean? And I'm not close to that pastor who allows something to let that happen, you know what I mean? Like, what would I do? That's a different question. But, you know, you don't, like God changing somebody or using somebody for a certain thing, as we see in the Bible he does, you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know what role that Kanye plays, and, you know, like, you know, in this, you don't know, like, towards, because all things is going to work towards the favor of his people, right? You know what I mean? But I don't know if he's on it, like, I don't know. I look at his lyrics like, yo, this is trickery, right? Like, you don't know. But then, like, you never know what God is doing either. And Kanye probably in the midst of what is going on, don't know what he's serving as in this position. So it's like, you know, I leave that to the Christian that God has put in place, who's been walking with him and stuff like that, you know. Yeah.
Now, can I go to add to that too? Because so I feel like I've been kind of chill since we actually started recording, because y'all know, like, I'm like, hey, well, this is just what I think about it, you know. But even so with the Kanye thing, I think it's really interesting because I'm definitely a media person. I like to kind of understand like where culture is moving and all of that type of stuff, and Brandon knows that. But it's really funny to see like how even unbelievers, like people that don't believe in Jesus at all or really struggle with it, they're even upset about kind of how Kanye's been moving. They're like, okay, so you went to this space where, you know, you're supporting Trump and you're doing all of this stuff that's kind of bringing this like negative media and kind of almost seems like you're looking down on black people. Then you take this break and then you come back and now all of a sudden like you're a Christian, like you done changed your life. It's like, don't use God to try to manipulate us, like, you know, because I think in a sense, although there's plenty of people that's just like, yo, God is terrible, there is no God, whatever. But I think also kind of culturally, like in our culture, it's still kind of thought of as a certain sacred thing. Yeah. That there, for most people to say like, hey, there's plenty of bad pastors. I think that there are people that still like, man, now there are still some good, real Christians. And so for you to try to capitalize on that idea, or for people to feel like you're capitalizing on that idea as something to do so that you can kind of start fresh, or you can use it as a marketing ploy or something like that, people really do not like that. They do not like you kind of like messing with people's emotions and their spiritual and religious beliefs to kind of manipulate them, right? And so I think that there are a lot of people out there that feel like that about kind of what Kanye's doing. I mean, it could be authentic, it might not be authentic. I mean, I've listened to some of the Sunday services, and the music is jamming, you know. It is. I mean, but at the end of the day, I think, I mean, at the end of the day, for a lot of things, and I think even as Christians, like, the end of the day, it should be about, well, one, intentions, and like really why, like not what you're doing, because you could do plenty of awesome things for God, and God uses it, and like people come to faith and all of that stuff, and then for you, it's like actually to your disadvantage, because it's not really coming from a place where you're trying to honor God and love people well, right? So for me, I'm like, shoot, somebody could hear that Sunday service that they did at Coachella and start having some real questions, and end up linking up with somebody that can really help them understand what it means to have a relationship with Jesus. And I'm like, yo, that's super bomb. Regardless of wherever Kanye is in his faith, and I hope he's growing into that and developing. But I think that's the other thing. I think sometimes like we get to a point where it's like, yo, shoot the messenger. You know what I mean? It's like, well, bro, I'll still call you out if I see something crazy on your message or what you're doing. But if you're doing something that's going to bring people to Jesus, I mean, I'm hoping you're in the right space to be on that mission as well. But you're still bringing up this conversation for people that we probably would never reach, right? There's like people that listen to Kanye and that's heard some of these songs and are questioning those ideas that we would never ever see on a Sunday service that we would go to, as far as like a Christian, you know, church service that might end up kind of getting there because of what happened. So I think that's the thing, is like kind of seeing the overall view while also kind of directly remembering like, yo, Kanye's a person. He's probably struggling. I mean, obviously it seems like he's been struggling with a lot of things in his life and figuring out, you know, what he believes about plenty of things that I don't agree with at some points, but still, he's still a person. He's trying to figure it out, just like all of us.
And I think that's a really good point, because I'm kind of like you. I would hear in the periphery, but I wouldn't really pay too much attention to it, because I'm usually skeptical of a lot of stuff anyway, and doubting, and just like you said, all the history of Kanye. Is it just Kanye being Kanye? Do you write it off as that? And that's the fine line we've got to like tread, where it's like, I know, especially like in the Christian hip hop community, like we get like super excited, like when a secular artist mentions Jesus or something, we're like, Chance, he's a Christian rapper, and it's like, just relax. But I get it at the same time. It's like you don't want to push him away. You know. So I get those ideas, but I think the thing with Kanye is, I don't know if he realizes how fragile people are. You know, and that he wields so much power, and that he's got to be very, very responsible with that.
And I would just say, I think he does. I think he has made massive movements. You know what I mean? Like it almost seemed like he soaked up the power, like on stage. It's like he looked like he just looks like he knows the power of the masses. I mean, he's influenced so much. Like, to me, like, he knew. I mean, you're not great without goals and stuff. He knows. You know what I mean? Like,
I think
he knows.
I think I struggle with thinking about that as well, because I think even when you see somebody like Kanye, there seems to be obviously a lot of ego, a lot of pride, but also a lot of insecurity, right? And I think that's where, when you see someone that's constantly, I mean, he's super vocal, but he also, in a lot of times, hasn't seemed super stable either. You know, and so I think sometimes it's like, because you're this quote unquote genius, people think that you're like elaborately thinking through every single process and every single move. And I think at some points in time he's been able to do that well, but it doesn't seem that way. And then the other thing that also makes me think that is because while he's been doing a lot of this stuff, he's been trying to stay quiet. It's like he's been moving, but he hasn't been necessarily expressing all of his thoughts. Which now, again, could that be like him like really being kind of having a formula to it? Maybe. But
and I would say not just like formal in a sense like this is calculated. I'm just saying like he knows his influence. Like I'm sure he thinks like I can pull this off in the church. You know what I mean? Like that's like that might have been the only goal. Like I could pull this off in the church. You know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? Like I don't know if it's all calculated. You know what I'm saying? Because Kanye ain't the way he is, but it's like I think just saying like I think he knows his influence. Like I think he knows people are sheep. I think he do. Like, you know what I mean? It's like no way, like just like in general, artists knows that just by the way they communicate about females and the stuff that they get and all the things that comes with what they're not even ready for at the time. You know what I mean? It's like, yo, like the just the power of this right here. Like for us not to believe that this has some kind of impact, you know what I mean, of sharing your viewpoints, showing your struggles and sharing something, like would be useless to to even do it. You know what I mean? So I think like, you know, we don't know his motive behind it. Like I don't know his motive, you know what I mean? Like but I think he would have to know, like, I mean, it's like just people's response to it. Like, it's like, yo, like people are responding either for the good or for the bad, so.
And another thing I was just thinking about this, kind of just to even bring it back to like the idea of just like unbelief and like society. But I think it's also just the fact that with Kanye and with a lot of other people, one that I definitely name that we've seen this happen with, for sure, and it definitely seems to be a fluke, but like a guy like R. Kelly, right? You go out and you do crazy stuff, and then you give me I believe I can fly, or you get some type of accusation, and now suddenly I get you saved me, like, bro. Like it's manipulation, right? It's like, and I mean, and you see this especially when you're talking about like artists and people. It's like, I feel like the new one, because kind of religion has been tainted so much, it's like the new one is like, oh, well, I did that and then I went to therapy or I went to rehab, like, but it's always this thing like I need this space to reinvent. And so I think since people have seen like that strategy of you doing something crazy and then somehow you end up in the church, you know what I mean, and kind of making those moves that, people just is like, all right, I need this. Why is this real? Like, why are you really doing it? It's just like, it's not as easy to trust, and then I think again, just for us as Christians, right? It's just like, I see this person doing it, or I see people infighting about people like Chance or whoever, and it's like, all right, man, like what is this really about? Like, what's going on here? It's confusing. And I mean, it's confusing because it is confusing. But I think a lot of times people, again, we want simple answers, right? Like you think about, you were talking about like the titles on like an article. They like put something out there that's super crazy that goes like, oh, this like one-dimensional maybe sentence. And then sometimes it's a little bit more elaborate when you read it, but people, it's hard to deal with complexity a lot of time, right? We want simple answers so we can move on, and sometimes it's just not that simple.
And like I said, just dealing with all these issues, us as Christians, it's like we've got to navigate. For
all
of this, which is so difficult. So like I said, we not just Christians, we Christians and black men trying to navigate what's going on, because like I said, a lot of times we don't even see any example ahead of us of like how we doing it, so we kind of learning on the fly with that. And both of you guys actually work at the same place, and y'all deal with people who don't share your worldview. And so it's like they taking all this, seeing what Kanye's doing, seeing how we portrayed in the media, and seeing how their own experience and their own misconceptions about Christians, and hey, y'all come in, hey, we love Jesus, and it's like, what's wrong with y'all? So how do y'all navigate these spaces when you have to interact with people who look at you like you crazy?
It's kind of funny. I mean, especially like I know E's experienced this a lot longer than I have, but it's just funny sometimes, like the ideas that people have about faith or religion that's around us, like where we work. And I know, like, for me, it was like a couple of kids one day, and they're like having this conversation, and they're just like, yo, you gonna lie on holy ground, son? Like, you gonna lie on holy ground? Like, you lying at the church? It's like, well, it's not the church. This is after school. It's like, nah, it's the church. You lying at the church. And then somebody else was just like in another conversation. They was like, well, nah, the church isn't the building, it's the people. It's like, nah, it's the building. It's like, you go to church. It's like, no, you go to church to meet with the people.
Yeah.
You know, and then they're like, yo, okay, man, what is it? Is it a building or is it people? I was like, it's people that happen to gather at a building sometimes. You know what I mean? They're kind of connected.
Scholarly
but
right there.
Come on, man. But I think again, it's just like people have, I think, most people have a certain level of awe of God. Like, they know it's something bigger, even if they don't want to admit what it is or what the implications of that is. They like have a reverence for the idea of it. It's just like connecting them to like the truth that it's not necessarily, almost kind of like this like worship of a space. I feel like that's what I see a lot of. It's like a worship of a space or a particular time or a particular day, like Sunday. But it's not necessarily like understanding that like the person that put that together like wants to have a relationship with you every day, not just at this space or at this time or on this day, but like a connection to you and just like how you move throughout the world in general. And so I think trying to like help folks that we work with kind of like understand that, and also like being willing, because I think about like people that also, you know, work in our community, maybe not work directly with us like as a profession, but in our community that are just like some of like the most loving, caring people that just, you know, that have had experiences but like had like God really changed their lives, and they might not be the most like theologically savvy or anything else, but again, they're on that opposite side. It's like, I had this experience, I know that God is real, and like my life reflects that in how I treat people, how I love people, and what I'm able to do. You know, like I think I could, like Alan, like that's like a guy named Alan that he's a part of, you know, the ministry that we, you know, we connect and we work with, and he's just like one of those guys. Like, I can come in on a Monday morning like about 9, which is rare, but you know, he's up there just cleaning up stuff, and not because he needs to get paid for whatever else, but just because, you know, that's just what he wants to do, you know. So I think that's the other thing. It's like learning, again, kind of taking things just from the head and like really putting them to your feet and your hands and making it something that people can see, and that's an authentic representation of what Christ stood for and who he is. I think that that's kind of the best thing you can do for doubters. Like, you want to be able to have conversations with them, but ultimately, if your like conversation and how you respond to them is kind of not parallel, like you're still gonna run into a lot of problems.
What about you, E?
Yeah, I think like just consistency. Like, I mean, everybody, like, because everybody's coming in with different vantage points. Like, you know, like I can be with two dudes with, you know, from the streets or whatever, and like just happened. Like, you know, my man CK is like, he was just like, yo, man, like, yo, if that came out of Ramirez's mouth, we calling him baby Jesus right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what they calling him. And like Ramirez, like, is the farthest from like evangelist type. You know, he just consistency. You know what I'm saying? Like consistency is a strong characteristic. You know, like even like my boss, who is legendary in my eyes, working with him every day. You know, like I think his like, we would probably disagree in a lot of different things and be similar, and I've learned so much, you know what I mean? But he's consistent. Like, so consistent. Like, if you talk to people that he's been working in our neighborhood for 23 years, I ran into people 23 years ago, and I was like, and they was like, yo, is Roy still down there or whatever? And it was like, yeah. He was like, oh, he still got the same message. I've seen people come in and be like, he still got this, like, the consistency. Like, that's what this whole hypocrite thing comes. There's no consistency. You know what I mean? So like, I think as a leader, you know, and as Christians, like, you know, we just want Kanye to be consistent. All right, like what made
he's consistently inconsistent.
Like, he's consistently great with music. You know what I'm saying? But like his mindset, we don't see the consistencies, and so we're thrown off. You know what I mean? So I think just in general, like, you know, consistency is a big thing for like that, like whatever you believing, like, you know, it may be, there's respect for being consistent. I think that's what cats are looking for. Like your street credibility is your consistency. Like whatever you want, like, or if they tell me like, I respect you, is because a certain amount of consistency. They don't see the flip flop, you know, like the flip flop, like this is like, and the same thing, I have respect for cats in the street, like, yo, he's consistent. Like, whatever he's doing, like, I might not agree with, but he's consistent. He believes what he believes. Yeah. He's about it. You know what I mean? And we can have those conversations, but, like, you're going to respect consistency. So it's like, especially when you're, like, leaders. You know what I mean? Like, leaders are going to, like, they just lead. You know, like, I've been around a lot of great leaders, and they don't know. They just lead. You know what I mean? Like, leaders lead. That's it. You know what I mean? Like, whatever they believe, they're taking it, and they're running with it. You know what I mean? You gotta respect that at the end of the day. So I think like we are changing, we're making doubters into to you know believing in what we're doing. You know, I don't know if I can say is, you know, coming to Christ fully. You know, only God can really do that. But I think they believe in what we're doing because there's a consistency in the community. You know what I mean? And values that they may not even all understand. And I think from us, we don't even understand the impact. You know, like I can't say like I know the impact, the results of it, but what's successful is being consistent. So I think as Christians that help our doubters, it just be consistent. You know what I mean? And you should be growing and changing in your consistency. So if you're about that knowledge, consistently be about like at least he's like, you know, people respect like when you try to answer the question. Like you ain't gotta have the answers. Yeah. But take the time, like at least like, oh, he'll seek it out. He's not giving me the like quick like cookie cutter answer.
Trust God. Trust God.
Yeah, trust God. You know, people respect like yo, the consistency of what you are. So I think like if anything we're doing is just being consistent. We've been there for a long time. You know what I mean? And it's the same message, the same principles. I got friends that like, yo, I don't agree with your beliefs. You know, would never say it like at barbershop talk. They are barber, so barbershop talk. Like I don't really get what y'all doing. You know what I'm saying? But like I respect it. You know what I mean? And I think like, you know that I think that's what matters most as being Christian. Just be consistent, man. You're broken. You know, be consistently broken and consistently trusting in the gospel at the same time, because that's a big witness.
One of the things that I've noticed just engaging people who think differently from me, and you kind of hit on this, is like valuing them as people. Yeah. You know, valuing them as people means listening to them. I think a lot of times as Christians, it's like, yo, I'm gonna learn you. Yeah. You're gonna learn something. But I feel like a lot of the conversations I have, I've learned more for another unbeliever than them learning from me. Definitely. And just giving somebody a time and day just to listen to them. Yeah. Like I got this dude who I work with, and furthest believe what I believe, but we can sit down and have these deep conversations because he knows I'm not gonna look at him crazy. He could say the most blasphemous thing in the world. I'm gonna just have a straight face and just say, I understand, I respect that, you know. And it's like, I hate to use this cliche, but it's like, you know, people, I'm probably gonna butcher, it's like people only care when they know you care, or something to that effect. And it's like you generally have to care for somebody else because you want them to care about what you're saying. And a lot of times we always just like offering when like most of the time people don't care what we think. Now if you ask me what I think, I tell you, but a lot of times we go into a situation just saying, hey, because I got other people who doing whatever they might do, and you know, why you not married, why you ain't doing this, that, and the third, and it's like, bruh, just listen to them have a conversation, listen to them talk. You know, I know what scripture says on marriage. I know these things, but I'm not gonna be like, hey, what you doing? Why you shacking up? Why you doing all this? And it's like, yo, just sit there and listen and just shut up. Definitely. Just shut up and just listen to people talk, because at that time, people gonna be more willing to listen to you. And because, like you said, you've built that credibility. You've built that equity with people where they know he's not just trying to beat me upside the head. He's not gonna sit here and judge me. You know, it's like, I ain't in no position to judge nobody. And so many times as Christians, we coming from that perspective where it's like, I see that sin in your life.
Yeah.
And it's like, bro, like, what about you? It's like, I'm chief of sinners, bro.
Definitely.
Who am I to stand here in somebody's judgment? It's like, yeah, I'm just here. I don't want to be, because I like to say this, the gospel convicts and comforts.
Yeah.
We usually too heavy on one end or the
Definitely.
other.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, we got to be there to comfort people.
Yeah.
We're not going to agree with everybody.
Definitely.
But what I think one of the biggest testimonies someone can have is somebody else's testimony of you. Because so many times we want to puff ourselves up and talk about how good we are. But if I could sit here and say, yo, I know this dude, Emmanuel, he's a solid dude. Like, I think that carries a lot more weight than you having to say, I'm a solid dude, but other people can testify on your behalf.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that I try to take pride in. Was like, if somebody interacts with me, like, yo, B's a solid dude.
Definitely.
Like, I may not agree with him, but he a solid dude. He treats me with respect. He honors me. He values me as a human being. He listens to me.
Yeah.
That's what I care more. And I think that's the best way to engage culture because we we don't look at people as people.
Definitely.
We just look, you're a sinner.
Yeah.
You're like, how can I like save you? And it's like, and I'm the one who need the biggest saving in the world.
Yeah, definitely.
And that kind of leads. I
had something I wanted to add to that.
Got you. I think too, like everybody's on a journey because I think like going back, like when I was a new believer, and I think we all went through that. Like, like you be on that rah-rah, like you be going hard. And I think like, it is like, it's a beautiful thing to see. Like if you saw a new believer right now and they was going hard, like, sometimes like as an old believer, like you just calm down a little bit.
I don't want to
like give them that, like I needed that, like when I was like that, like I'm kind of like, I appreciate that time. You know what I mean? Maybe like to the young man, but in some sense, like you need some of that. Like you need some of like we are complex
zeal,
people. You need people's zeal hitting the streets. You know what I'm saying? You need people in the seminaries, in the classrooms. Like we gotta like have the full complexity, of it. So we need some rah-rah. You know what I mean? Like we need a guy, like even if we agree or not, we do need a guy who may like say like he may have a strong point of view on Kanye West. And somebody, you know what I'm saying, like false, whatever they saying, like, you know what I'm saying, like, he may be in that season of life. I've been in all of those different seasons of life, and it's like that's how you become whole eventually. You know what I mean? Like,
mature.
Like you become more mature. Like, I was on that. Yeah, not that I want to be done with it, but like I'm trying to balance it. I'm trying to balance it all out.
Because we know somebody. I don't want to put his name out, but hopefully when I tell y'all the story, y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He dude who hang with us, he came to the last podcast. If that give you a clue, he like put on like social media, homosexuality is a sin.
Yeah.
And I was like, what you doing, bro? No context, no nothing. Yeah. And I'm like, I appreciate your zeal because I don't want to squander your zeal.
Yeah.
But it's like sometimes it's not always the wisest thing to do. No matter how correct you are, it's just. We want to bring people in.
Definitely,
you just hitting them with the stiff arm right there.
Ostracizing.
Well, I know you got to get to the point. But that person called me.
Okay. Because I was like, I want to talk to him so bad.
Yeah, that person called me and like I said, look, you knew, just know, like you knew, like if you do this and like, because I can't say I disagree.
Yeah.
What I do it, I wouldn't, but you did it. Just be ready for it. You know what I'm saying? So like, look, you put it out there. Like, if some people may say put it down or whatever. Like, nah, you put it up there.
Stand on it.
Like, go stand on it. Like, stand. Like, like that was like my stand because he needs that for himself. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, he needs that for himself. And like, but like, if you ask me personally, I'm like, I wouldn't have did it that way. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? But. There may be some reason why I wouldn't do it that way that I need to like Bizzle. You know what I'm saying? Like I like the Lecrae approach over the but I love the Bizzle approach. Yeah. Like he's coming at your head. And some people like guys, I'm talking about like community. Guys, like they said like they told us people who are not believers, like I like it when you come out our head. Like, I like it when you curse us out. Yeah. Like, that's what they said. Like, when you curse us out, eat hit. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, but like, and I did it because I knew, like, look, I need you to get this. You know what I'm saying?
It's context.
It's context. Like, it's the context. So social media, the context to do that, maybe, maybe not. The time, maybe, maybe not. You know what I'm saying? And I think there's got to be, like, I'm just like, hey, I'm appreciate both. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can appreciate, like, somebody posted about the Kanye, like I appreciate the fact that Jesus' name is being mentioned.
Yeah.
You know, I don't appreciate all the things that Kanye have said beforehand, and I don't know if this is some kind of sneak move. You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking for both. Like, I appreciate Jesus. You know, his name is getting mentioned, and Christ is being proclaimed. You know what I mean? And all those kind of things.
But I got my eye on you, bro.
Yeah, you know. But I got that one eye on. The other eye is like, all right, yo, when he gonna do the switch up? You know, and then it's like Jesus is like praise Jesus, then it switch to Jesus. You know, like it's so closely related. It's so closely related. I got both. Like one eye is watching both sides. You know what I mean? So go ahead.
No, so two things. One, I think it's also kind of like zeal without knowledge and wisdom is dangerous.
Definitely.
You know, because at the end of the day, and kind of connecting to another point that you mentioned about kind of having conversations with people. It's like, I hear people talk about a lot of things, but I don't usually hear people talking about like kind of the curiosity of Jesus, right? Oh, yeah. Like Jesus knew everything, right? Yeah. Jesus knew everything, but he still asks people questions.
Yeah.
Why?
Definitely. Yeah.
Why would somebody that knows everything ask you a question?
Yeah.
It's like, because there's a curiosity in you telling your own story. You connecting, and this being a actual connection, not I can tell you everything, because the person that can tell you everything doesn't want to listen to what you have to say, because I already know what's right, and what you have to say doesn't really matter to me. But if like literally the person that created everything knows everything, and we know that he knew what people were thinking before they even said it, but he still asks them questions. It's like, then why shouldn't I ask people questions? Why shouldn't I be interested in people's stories? Why shouldn't I interact and try to understand before necessarily saying anything? Because I don't know everything. Right? And so I think that's the thing. It's like, again, with that, it's like, because you know me, and you probably already know, like for me, I'm like, that is not a smart move, like to do. I mean, and maybe I do know this brother, but I don't know. I don't know, but at the end of the day, it's like when you do things that are just necessarily just ostracizing, especially people that you don't even know. Like there's people that seeing that already you're just necessarily building that wall up of the stereotype of what they already expect from you. Instead of having that conversation or having the ability to talk with someone and help them kind of figure out or know where they're coming from. You know what I mean? And so and while I agree, I completely agree on the sin part. I completely agree. But at the end of the day, there's a way to honor people while having a conversation about something that you disagree with them about. And I think, again, sometimes I think people, they're standing on something so strong because they don't want to deal with the backlash of really hearing people out and, again, seeing them as a person that's struggling, not just with whatever that sin is, but just with life as a person, because everybody struggles. Everybody, no matter Christian, non-Christian, like everybody has issues that they're dealing with in their life at some point in time and another. And so like being able to, I think, kind of have that level playing field, because there is a level playing field as far as us just being people and God being perfect and all of us being jacked up, that we can afford to give people grace because we need grace. And I think any time that you're operating, and I'm not saying that grace doesn't necessarily mean you don't come hard at people sometimes, because sometimes that is, but like when you're operating with like a sense of superiority over people, I'm like, and I don't know, I don't know if that was the case, but if you're operating from like a sense of moral superiority over people, it's like, bro, you need to check yourself.
Definitely.
I know.
I think it's tough. You know what I mean? Like, it's tough. Like I would like, you know, one side of me, like it's the journey. Like one side of me, like if I was his age, like I was doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it helped people. You know what I'm saying? Like it helps. Like sometimes it helps not relating and just like saying it. You know what I'm saying? Like it hit like something. So it's like what like how God uses it, you don't
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like to say like God doesn't. You know, like God is using someone who's skilled, tactful, mature. You know, just as much as the
reckless dude.
Exactly.
The guy, the disciple of me, my mentor. He was convicted by. He was at like Summer Jam or someplace in Atlanta. I forgot what they used to call it.
Talking about Freaknik?
Like something like that. It was something like that. And a woman just yelled from her porch, like, y'all all going to hell or something like that. And it hit him though. Like, you know what I'm saying? It hit. Like if he tells his testimony, he remembers that as a moment that like got him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, you know, and my life is impacted today. She would never even know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And if you ask me today, like, do I agree with her saying that? No. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, to a certain extent, because I'm like, I'm on to build a relationship tip, but I know, like, it's changed some people's lives, and I know some people I've came at in the past, like, a hard way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, and it hit. And like, you know what I mean? And so, like, Paul Washer, like, it hit everybody when he came through. You know what I'm saying? But is everybody still listening as in tune as we were when, like, he first went? Like, I don't think, like, I don't know if people still listen to him at the same level. Like, I know I'm not listening to him at the same level that I was when he first. It was like the most amazing thing I ever heard because it's like it was so convicting. He said it straight, and like, you know, and he got some very strong conservative views. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but in my season of life, like, you know, I'm a little further. I shouldn't say that. That's bad. I'm not further progressed. I'm in a different season. I'm in a different season, and I probably need to go back and just listen again. It was amazing at that moment. That was an amazing moment.
Can I say something? But I think you're just talking to, like, the way you do ministry could be different. I mean, because you think about it, you got John the Baptist, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that's probably pretty. I mean, that's super ultra conservative. Yo, I'm about to go into these woods in the wilderness on my Moses tip. Yeah. I'm about to eat locusts and honey and tell all of y'all how y'all not getting into heaven.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, my cousin, the big G.O.D. over here, you know what I mean, he gonna be over here saving prostitutes and, you know, getting tax collectors on his squad. I mean, and the funny thing, it was like, I think at the end of the day, it is supposed to be about getting the message and building a relationship. Not building a relationship with God primarily, not with the way that the person communicates it. Because you think about Jesus, like Jesus literally said, he was like, yo, John the Baptist came out here. My man was in the woods. He ain't do nothing wrong. Y'all hated him. I'm over here chilling, drinking wine. Y'all hate me. Y'all just hate me. Y'all hate God. That's what you do. Definitely. You hate God, and no matter how it's communicated to you, you're still gonna hate God. So I think that's the other thing. It's like, I mean, we all have our way that, like, God has wired us to communicate and get that across. And so, like, again, like, so the way I would see it is the way I should communicate it will be maybe different than someone else. Definitely. You know what I'm saying? And so while I might be like, yo, I can see the holes in your communication, the other person can see the holes in mine too, you know? And so I think it is about, like, not necessarily like having those conversations with brothers or whatever, and just also realizing, yo, like, however God's using you, if he's using you and you're doing it that way, cool. He using you and he doing it that way, great. We're going to honor one another even if we don't, again, agree, even as Christians. Because I think that's the other thing. It's like, me being a Christian, I don't got to agree with everything you're doing. And that doesn't mean that it's a sin. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. It doesn't mean you're in the wrong. It's just like, I don't agree with doing it that way, you know? Exactly. And I think that's, again, a part of that complexity that, you know, that makes it, I think if people could see that, like, from the outside, it's easier to, like, oh, I get it now. Like, yo, they don't all support Trump, or you know what I'm saying? You know, they don't all, you know what I'm saying? They ain't all on this, like, weird, you know, I just want to give everybody a hug. And, you know, it's not, it doesn't have to be either or. You know? So
that means, so out there, if you out there, that means there's room for everybody. You know what I'm saying? If you
at the feet of the cross,
there's room for everybody, and all your complexity, as we all are complex. You know, are complex in itself. There's complexity, like, and I think people need to see that. They see, like, we divide over these things, and that's why you can't see the oneness. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm sure there's someone in the LGBT community who is, like, preaching, like, you know, fire and brimstone if you believe that they're going to hell. You know what I mean? And you have somebody who's doing the community work. You have somebody who's saying something. You have somebody who's saying, like, you know, they posting on social media. You know what I'm saying? But the mission. The mission hasn't changed to try to make this world, I guess, progressive in a sense. You know, and I think for us, like we have to embrace. We have to not be so hard line, you know what I mean, and kind of embrace, like you said, like, people doing it differently. But if it's clear command to sin, like, that's where we got. All right,
yeah,
like, that's where the line is. Like,
it's like, I can respectfully, completely disagree.
I can completely disagree.
You know what I'm saying? I think that is the thing. You know what I'm saying? So open minded that your brain, you know, falls out. Like, I do. Now that just made me want to say something, but, you know, I don't know if this is the time and place. So I'll keep my semi-revolutionary ideas to a minimum on this space. But y'all already know.
Nah. Yeah, like I said, y'all been hitting it on the head so many times. Where one of the things that you had mentioned was just like how we saying certain things, we don't know how God is going to use it. And I read somewhere it's like, you know, God will honor His word, but not the man. And that's something that like always like scared the mess out of me, because it's so easy, you know, to talk about the doubts of the unbelievers and things like that. But I think even as Christians, that doubt hits a little harder.
Yeah.
You know, because we know better, but yet we still understand that this life is difficult. You said it. You said we think becoming a Christian make your life so much better. Like my life, it is to an extent.
It is, yeah.
But it's not how you think it's going.
Exactly.
It's not how you going to think it's going to be. And it's like, you know, wrestling with those ideas of just like, you know, it's not going to be what I want it to be, and you can have your own doubts. And I think people need to see that. They need to see that vulnerability, that transparency, that even as a Christian, that, bro, I'm still trying to figure things out. So there ain't no way I'm gonna come at you like I got this thing all together. And like I said, that was probably one of my biggest doubts and struggles, because y'all know I went to seminary, have all these things, and just on so many different levels, it's like, yo, God, what is you doing? Because I get my bachelor's degree from Liberty, and it's like that's where all my debt is. I got I'm getting two other masters paid for already, pretty much. It's just this undergrad degree that nobody cares about, a biblical studies degree, a BS in biblical studies, and it's like almost six digits in debt off of that. And it's like, God, how am I supposed to maneuver through this when I got this hanging over my head? And not only do I have that hanging over my head, I got my wife's debt hanging over my head.
Definitely.
Like, God, yo, what is you doing with this? You know? And so getting all this training, learning all these things is really cool. But it's like at the same time, it's like, how much do you need to know? And because I've seen so much bad theology, that I hold good theology at a premium. But as I'm learning and as I'm growing, I'm realizing your theology don't save you, bro. It don't save you. It's good to have good theology, but it's like what's more important is living out that theology. And that's the hard part, because one of the things that sparked this conversation was someone who, Joshua Harris, very theologically sound, lead pastor at church, I think it was Covenant Life in Maryland. And I know they has some internal things going on with the church. He has some things going on with his life, but he just pretty much walks away from the faith. Now, for those, I'm pretty sure all of us in this room, we believe in this idea of like eternal security. So how do we wrestle with that idea where it's like, bruh, this dude was probably going hard on this idea of eternal security, but he's like, I'm out of here. And so it's like, yo, that don't mean nothing. You having all this, like, that's why I was saying, God will honor his word. Like, you could preach the gospel intellectually, lead people to Christ, but that gospel not be rooted in you. And so that's one of the things that I wrestle with, not necessarily have doubts, but it's like, yo, God, what are you doing? Because I'm doing all this, you know, schooling, doing all this stuff. Like, the podcast is an outworking of me going to seminary. Like, yo, I don't want to be a pastor. I don't know what I want to do. I just want to have conversations with people. I don't know how that looks. Like I said, we don't have, like, when you growing up, what's the things people in our community want to be? Basketball players, rappers. We seen that. We've seen that. I ain't seen nobody in the realm of academics. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just like leading as God follows. So I'm like, I have no clue what I'm doing. And so that's one of the struggles that I have just in my own journey and walk, and just truly trusting God, where it's like, you know, he says he orders your steps, and like truly believing that, you know, God is in control. And I think even just y'all being here is a testament to that, because like I said, if y'all not here, I don't have no podcast. I'm not going to be the dude who got the podcast just talking to himself. That's not going to be me. So just even in this little, I won't call it little, but just this time that we have, because you're talking about how impactful this is. I think it's just impactful just for my own faith, where it's like, yo, I got these dudes that come out on a Saturday morning just to come and chop it up with me. You know, that don't happen unless God is orchestrating all of that. And even my shout out to my guy Keith, know, coming through. It's like, I got these cameras in here. I need somebody literally to push a button. So not only do I have to get y'all here, I got to find somebody to help me do that. And it's like, that's nothing but God helping me through that. And so just recognizing that doubt, recognizing that struggle, but realizing that, yo, we still got struggles as Christians, bro. We don't got it all together. So we look at y'all as unbelievers like, yo, y'all need to get it together, but we need to get it together too. So this is my last and final question for y'all. Is like, what are the things that y'all struggle with, and how and what has that taught you in life? I'll start with you, Kao.
Yeah, you know, I think even with what you were saying about like unbelievers, I think for me, a lot of times when I see somebody that's like, I don't believe in that, I'm like, oh, I get that. Like, it doesn't hit me as like, I'm not like perplexed that somebody doesn't understand faith. Because I remember like years ago, like I said, I grew up Christian home. I went to a Christian private school for a number of years, all of that stuff, you know what I mean? And I was like, deuces, this is too much, you know what I mean? And also, I even remember one time, I was just like, I put it somewhere online or whatever, but I was like, man, why are Christians so pushy, man? Gosh, they're annoying, right? Because I didn't consider myself a Christian at all. Like, so for me, I think there is this like kind of intermingling of this idea that like faith is obviously intellectual, but there's also this kind of emotional, spiritual aspect that is beyond my comprehension. And that is the only way I became a Christian. Like, I did not want to be a Christian. Like, I did not want to be a Christian. I know for certain I didn't. Like, either. I was studying other religions. I studied Buddhism. I read almost all the Quran. I did all of that stuff. Like, I did all of it, you know. But I was just like, yo, God, I feel like you exist. You need to show me like who you are, because it's a lot out here in these streets, you know? And so I think for me, one way that I've like struggled as far as that with faith is because I'm just a person, I'm just like highly critical, if you can't tell. But I'm just always questioning things. Like, I'm always questioning things. And so I think that helps me because I'm able to kind of like read and search and think and pray, and sometimes things that come to me that I really wasn't thinking, or I really kind of forgot to really realize about the truth of Christ and the gospel. Like, over the past couple of months, like one of the big struggles I was just having, like as we do community work, and you're thinking about like how all of these factors come in that like wreak havoc on the community that almost seems like unknown. Like, I don't know, like, why are all of these kids struggling? Like, for me, like, why will, for most of the students that we serve, if they're kind of just out doing it on their own, 3 out of 10 in lower socioeconomic communities, 3 out of 10, and that's from the top students when they start school, is going to be able to get a college degree and an entry-level job. Like, just generally across the nation. Like, why is that the case? Like, and then so I'm like, man, yo, like, God, like, especially, and just to be real, like, why do people that look like me, or people that have struggled for so long, why are we still seeing them struggle at such a high rate and at a high level? Like, yo, like, what's up with that? You know what I mean? And it was like really starting to like weigh on me, like, just like, yo, God, like, does the work I do even matter when like this? It's a better chance that even though I'm helping this kid succeed, even if they do succeed, their kid might still be in the same situation. It's like what's up with that? And so remember one night, me and my wife, we were like talking about some stuff, and and she like asked me to pray about it, and I was just like, yo, I really don't want to pray. Like, I really don't want to. Like, I'm not. It wasn't even like, oh, God doesn't exist anymore, but it was like, man, I really don't want to talk to him right now. And it's crazy because
it's like a real relationship. Sometimes you don't want to talk to the person you love.
But like later on, we was like hanging out with some friends. That same week, was hanging out with some friends. We're just like talking about, and they were just talking about kind of like some struggles they was having in their relationship with God, and and just how for them they just started really realizing like it is not about like how much I read my Bible, how much I pray. It's like God doing the work in me. That's like making me love him more, or understanding his love for me. And when I'm talking, and sometimes for me, like when I start talking stuff out, like I start thinking about things or like having ideas. It was like I had that idea before. It just comes out. And for me, I really just think it's like just the spirit. But we were like talking, and I just like came to this conclusion. I was like, it's like, wow, because like the world is super jacked up. There's a lot of crazy bad things that happen in the world. But if the Bible is true, and I do believe it's true, and there's like a thing, it's a saving grace to put you in right relationship, you become a child of God. But then also like God's just looking out for the world as well, regardless of if you believe in him or not. And we call it common grace or whatever, but it's only, if that is true, that means it's still only the grace of God. If we all are jacked up, that people aren't literally every day like, I'm gonna go get mine.
Yeah.
Regardless. Yeah. Like they're like the fact that there's even a sense of human decency. And I mean, and we've seen through history what happens when that completely erodes. Yeah. Like, it gets wild out here. Like, you know what I'm saying? Hitler, it gets wild out here when somebody gets power and it's like, I can just do what I want and make the world into my image. It get crazy, you know? And so for me, that was like, I felt like a moment where God was just like, yo, like, I'm here. I mean, it might not look like how you want it to look, because it's not, because this isn't the full representation of like what it will be. Yeah. But I'm still active. I'm still out here. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You know, people doing crazy stuff, but I'm aware of it. You know what I mean? And so I think for me, that was like a place where I was kind of struggling. You know, just even in the, you know, and I wouldn't even say I'm like completely out of it, but I had to keep bringing that to my memory as like, yo, like God is still active. You know, because sometimes the things that are happening in our world might make it feel like, yo, where you at? So that's kind of, for me, that's where I've been at.
What about you, E?
Yeah, man, like, you know, I obviously, I feel the same way, KO. Like, I was not looking for, like, I wasn't looking for God at all. Mm-hmm. That was, like, the farthest thing in my mind. So I even thinking about it, and I was going to say, like, even when I'm talking to somebody, like, I've been on both sides. Mm-hmm. Like, I've been on the side, like, wilding and doing everything, and I've been on this side, too. Like, it's better. Like, God is better. Like, you can't say you've been on both. Just come over here. Right? Come holler at us for a little bit. You can't say you did both, and, like, what you're doing don't look like it's working. You know what I'm saying? Come over here like God got something for you. You know what I'm saying?
Don't go to death row.
Yeah, come to us. You know what I'm saying? Like, come to us. So, you know, but, like, yeah, man, like, you know, even it's, you know, just things going through even now, like, I would never think I would be in the headspace that, you know, where, like, yo, like, I want to, like, throw in the towel, you know what I mean? And like, just thinking about how far I came and just kind of walking with the Lord for like 14 years now, like at the 14th mark, you know, like, Dad, like, you have those feelings, you know? And so, like, from a faith and doubt standpoint, like, it's at an all-time high, you know what I mean, for me. But, like, God's goodness and faithfulness right now is at the same, it's at the same, you know what I mean? So, I think a lot of time is, like, one of the things, like, you got to understand your enemy, too, you know what I'm saying? Like, when you focus on the have-nots, like, what you don't have, you know what I mean? Like, it could give you some bitterness. You know what I mean? And so, like, I'm really in a lot of personal development. Like, you know, you focus on, like, things you can be grateful for. Yeah. And I think it's helped, like, God's faithfulness. Like, I see a lot of God's faithfulness has really helped. And in our community, you know, we sometimes, we don't even feel like we have the answers. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we have that victim mentality in general. You know what I mean? And so with that, you're going to get those results because you're focusing on what you don't have. You know? And so sometimes I'm just like getting guys to change their mindset. Like, yo, we got a lot. Like, it could be worse. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Not like the whole thing. Like, I do that to my kids sometimes. Like, look, some kids I ain't. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, but like, you know, but like at the end of the day, like you gotta, like, there's a lot of goodness around us, man. Just as us, you know, what, like us, like, let's be honest, like, a lot of us haven't traveled out of the country. You know what I'm saying? Including myself a lot. Like, I've been out of the country once, and they didn't even have a book in their language. You know what I mean? So it's like on a mission trip. So it's like, we're in America. You know what I mean? Like some of the people I follow is like, yo, they're like, just being in America is a lot better. You know what I'm saying? So we got over here some craziness or whatever, or maybe like, so I was talking to somebody the other day, we was already here, whatever the situation is. You know what I'm saying? Whatever you at on it, like, we have a lot to really be grateful for. And so, like I say, if you're a person that's like, you know, doubting, and like I could say, like, my doubt is at an all-time high, I can't get away from that. I've experienced, like, God's goodness and faithfulness and what he can keep you through and how he can hold you. And that's what the Bible is about anyway. You know, if you're looking for Emmanuel, like, to, like, uphold your faith, like, I'm going to sadly disappoint you, but, like, I would definitely say, like, God can uphold you. And so the sufferings, the pains, like, I even appreciate them. Like, I even appreciate it. I hate it. Like, I hate suffering. I hate pain. I hate certain situations I'm in now. But, like, I like I can see that's good for me. You know what I'm saying? And I believe that all things really are working together for the good of those who love him. And so that would be my final plug is like even with all the doubt we have going on, or maybe you even doubt your situation, you got to ask yourself, do you love him? You know what I mean? Like that's what it's like. KO kind of said a little bit like I'm knowing more of his love and I'm loving him more. You know what I'm saying? So like, I'm not loving him at where I want to be loving him now with time and the quality time you would take in any relationship, but sometimes it is like in this season, like I see in the book of Psalms, like it's being angry. I'm angry with you, God. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's a real relationship. You know what I'm saying? Where at one point I'm scared to even say like, yo, if I say like how I really feeling, like he's going to strike me dead. You know what I mean? So it's like, now I feel like it's more like a real relationship. Like, yo, I'm frustrated today. I'm really annoyed about this guy. You know what I'm saying? I feel a closeness that he's never rejected me in my worst time. And so like, and Andy Minio's album really helped with that. His album on like Sword, and he talks about anxiety and even him saying like your doubt and stuff doesn't, and your anger at God, if you're angry at God right now because of a particular situation that you're going on, like that in itself shows that you believe there's a relationship there. You just didn't get what you wanted out of that relationship. So instead of just fighting it, just go ahead and just be honest and really have that conversation that you need to have, instead of trying to reject it and you can't really avoid it, and then it doesn't come up until something happens that make you. So go ahead and have that conversation. If you're upset with God, you're angry with God, it didn't work out the way you wanted it to work out, go ahead and give it to him. He can handle it. Let me just he can handle it, whether you're a Christian or a non-Christian. He can handle it, and I guarantee you he can meet you at a place where you never thought you could meet him, and you're really going to appreciate him more. So because God's goodness and faithfulness is like, I could say, kept me through certain things that I never thought I could make it through, or never thought I would want to go through. But I can't deny how good and faithful, and I appreciate God at a whole new level in the suffering. You know what I mean? Like at a whole new level, because like, there's self-righteousness of like, you want the blessings because of the obedience, you know what I mean? But like now you kind of know your resilience, your perseverance because of the seed, or Jesus being being in you. And so it's like I just tell people now, like, going through all I've been through, I'm just happy to be saved. Like that's my story now. Like I've been through some stuff. I'm just saying, like, bro, I'm just happy to be saved. Like I'm still shocked that I am, and not that like it's that bad. It's just saying like, man, like, number one, I never thought I wanted to be saved. And number two, like, I'm not even keeping myself to be saved, whether you're talking eternal security or whatever. So if you're going through, if you're out here and you're catching this and you're going through, like, and you fighting, like, just give up. You know what I mean? Give in. You know what I mean? Because, like, the reality of it, and, like, just fall in love, man. Go ahead and have those conversations that you need to have. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and get that community that you need to have, and, like, keep pressing on, because it's worth it at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And it's not even, like it's no, like, for me at all, like, I may go to hell. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like an assurance, like, God's faithfulness in the present, I feel assured that I make it to the future. You know what I mean? So, I don't know what he went through. I don't know, like, I don't know. It may not even be done from a media standpoint. He may think he's on some other journey. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. It could be 5 years later, he turned around, he's repented, or whatever the shit. Like, I don't know which journey. I hope that, I can just imagine, you know what I mean? Like, I can imagine, like, I could put myself in the shoes, like, yeah, I get it. Like, I've thought that. Like, I've been there. You know what I'm saying? But, like, I don't know, like, when you change, like, the enemy just wants to change your focus. Like, it's not hard to throw us off. Yeah. Like, it just in the garden, like, he just switched the focus. Like, the tree was there the whole time. You know what I'm saying? But it's like he made them focus on the have-nots. Like, you have everything. You have everything. You know what I'm saying? So our community and people in general, focus on what you have, not what you don't have. You can't change that. But you can focus on what you do have, and you'll be grateful and appreciative for it. Like, I'm grateful and appreciated what I'm for. I'm grateful with all that's going on. I can't even keep up with all that's going on in our community. You know what I'm saying? But, like, from what I hear, I'm grateful to be in America. I have a chance to change my life. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I have an opportunity to, like, do better and change things. You know what I mean? So, despite what he is doing from a leader standpoint, shouldn't stop what we can be doing. Yeah. And just my last plug is just like that we can learn from the world is, like, even with these songs like God's Plan, and like, yo, like, they shouldn't believe that they're doing God's work better than we are. You know what I'm saying? Like in all their songs, like we're doing God's work, we're doing God's work. You know what I mean? It's like, look, like we actually, you know what I'm saying? And so like I would just say like, we need to have confidence in ourselves. Like that's what I'm getting to now. Like going to the other side of like pain. Like I need to have the same confidence like Drake has, and I don't really know if that's if that's God's plan or God's work, but I do know God's plan and God's work is happening in like our lives. So, like we need to kind of like be courageous. We need to be courageous and bold with that. Like we actually are doing God's work. How small or big it may be, we just need to be confident that we out here doing it for the King. Yeah. Because like playing small ain't helping the world to see the light. You know what I mean? So keep doing it, man. Keep doing what you're doing. I appreciate this. And there may be a kid out there. Like there's a kid out there when I was that age thinking like I want to see somebody like you. That just wasn't my journey. Like like you asked the question. Well, before we was talking about it, like I wanted to do both. I wanted to be like I wanted to maybe go to like school and seminary. You know what I'm saying? But I also wanted to be like relative, like who I was at the end of the day. And you know what I mean? You actually pulled off a book. Like we talk about like how many books you're reading of not the John Pipers and all these kind of people. Like, are you reading other books that of like people that looks like you? Yeah. If my white brothers and sisters, are you reading other books outside of the Tim Kellers, the John Pipers, and all those kind of things? Like, are you like, reading different books, out of people outside of your culture as well? And so I think for you to be able to write a book, to do a podcast, to be in seminary, to get the debt that we all got to, and all that kind of things, like God is really using that far beyond, because I remember being a young person looking up to people and wondering was those things out there, and then you're sitting here with those things already on the table, not even knowing where it's all going to lead to, but you also not know who you're touching by doing that. So just keep doing what you're doing, man. So I just want to,
Yeah, I appreciate y'all so much. Like I said, I say this all the time. Like, I don't ever know what's going to happen going into these situations. I don't know. I just be like, I told you, I had like a little outline. Don't know where it's going to go. Don't know, bro. An hour 30, bro, and we have more. I still got more, but nah, I appreciate y'all so much, and I appreciate those words. Just your faith and your testimony is just such a blessing to me. Because, like you said, we so narrow-minded, focusing on our situations, we don't even realize how we being a blessing to somebody else, and we don't even realize it because we like, oh, woe is me, and the other person from the outside like, yo, look what you done did, and like you said, focusing on what I don't have. Look what I do have. Look what I do have. Look what God has already done through me, and I'm over here complaining about stuff, and it's like it's just so powerful. And then you said something that was crazy. It's like we think obedience equals not suffering. Like, and that's just a form of self-righteous. Because I obey everything, all God. But it says in Scripture, it's a blessing to suffer. So your suffering actually is a blessing. It's like just the paradox of Scripture that it just messes your mind up. Because how is it a blessing to suffer? But how is it a blessing? Because it strengthens your faith. It's a testimony to somebody else. You got a story now. Because what we just finished saying, we look at all these people in the Bible and we like, they got a story. But they went through some stuff. They had to go through some stuff in order to have a story. It's like, I just want to live this nice, cushy life, all this comfortability. But that ain't no story. How God done work through you. How God done made you uncomfortable. How has God shown himself to be real and evident in your life? And like I said, just from the outside looking in, I definitely see how God is real and relevant in your life. And like I said, just appreciate your kind words, appreciate y'all for being here, because like you said, I understand not wanting to be in front of the camera. I trust me. Trust me, I be like, when I be editing, I be trying to find a filter that make me look darker. I be doing it, bro. I mean, so if y'all look like shadows and I'm brown skin, bro, that's why.
He's black, yo. He's black. Hey, don't get it twisted.
I'm cool. I've learned, because I hadn't done it a lot lately, but even with the emojis, like I try to do the darkest emoji I can find. It's like I'm trying to be extra black. I don't know. But I did want to say another thing, even about like the suffering thing, right? It's like, it's so crazy because, Jesus was perfectly obedient. He had like the worst life ever. Like, bro, I mean, literally, it's like, bruh, I don't see anybody looking at, like, if you really like look at Jesus' life, like Like,
I don't want that.
Yeah, like, what makes you want that? Like, so I'm gonna, like, I mean, you think about it, it's like, I'm gonna preach in front of a bunch of people. They're gonna walk away. I'm not gonna get paid for it. I don't have a house to live in. They're gonna mock me, persecute me, beat me, and eventually kill me for doing all the right things. It's like, man, that's like I mean, by our real like not like our cool biblical standards, but by like our general conception of how the world's supposed to work, that's a really trash life.
Yeah.
A really trash life, you know what I mean? But in that, it's like we're literally, because he was willing to do that, like we can have this life of at least a few comforts.
Yeah.
Even on this side, and then ultimate comfort, you know, on the other side, you know, and so that's the crazy thing for me. I'm not saying that like I like always remember that, but when you just like
these
think
moments
about
of clarity,
that like the moment of clarity, you know what I'm saying, like the Jay-Z song,
Yeah.
you know, but yeah, like when you have it, it's like, yo, like, so man, I'm doing really good right now.
Yeah.
I'm over here chilling, having a working on a podcast and stuff, talking about this stuff. I'm not out there like, you know, like, yo, where am I gonna lay my head tonight? You know what I'm saying? Peter, what's up? What we got?
Yeah.
You got some fish left? Like, what, you know, it's not that type of situation. So everything is all good.
Yeah, like I said, I definitely appreciate you guys. And thank y'all for tuning in and listening.
Sure.
I didn't say this earlier, but podcasts are available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and the video is on YouTube. Thank you once again to my brother Keith for just coming through.
And on Spotify too, because I'm a Spotify guy.
And on Spotify, you white people who don't have iPhones. But nah, appreciate you guys, and thank you for listening. Until next time, we out. Peace.
Yo, my world don't stop when the beats commence. Said I'm climbing up this ladder just to get over this fence and run far, far away from the games people play. In this melancholy modern day music Malay.